So next up, the SUSE A Microsoft collaboration.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, let me introduce and present myself. So my name is Johan Solberg. As you hear from my accent, I'm actually from Sweden. I'm working for Microsoft in the Azure Business Group, and as a business manager with special focus on the open source domain in Azure. So I will spend the next 30 minutes together with you and explain a bit about why Microsoft really are interested in open source and what we're doing in this domain, what is Azure all about, and finally also about our relationship and partnership, of course, with SUSE and what's in it for you. So who would have thought, like 15 years ago when the CIO of Microsoft was speaking about like Linux being like a lethal disease and so on, and we that are old enough that remembers that, we can laugh about it now, but that was actually the message, from Microsoft 15 years ago, and now we are invited here in great partnership with SUSE, and we are doing like a speech with this audience. There is no rotten fruit coming here, there are no eggs, so like things have really changed, so what has changed? I would say there are lots of things that happen, but one of the big disruptors that has changed is the public cloud. Yeah, and the cloud really changes the fundamental. It's like the big digital disruptor, I believe, for the whole industry. It really changes everything. So the old partners, they become the competitors. The old competitors, they become partners. Products, no longer like a CD that you sell. It's a service that sits in the cloud. Compute and storage, it becomes something. It is not a piece of hardware anymore that you need to buy. Development is for sure not anything that happens in a waterfall process anymore. It's happened completely different. Competitors that pop up faster than ever before, and laggards, they go out of business. So with all of that said, we also need to change from Microsoft. So this is our like official statement. So if you want to take a picture, it's fine to take a picture. It is not something that I made up. We can of course replace like open source with Linux if you prefer, or we could write SUSE there instead. So our company has really turned around like 180 degrees from being like the lethal disease to be some of the leading companies in the industry that really embraces open source and really look forward to continue doing so going forward. So the agenda, why are we here? So I will speak about Microsoft's approach to open source connected to the cloud. I will spend that would be like the first 10-15 minutes, and then we will have a quick dive into what actually is Azure, from an open source aspect, and then thirdly we will cover a little bit on the partnership with SUSE and what's in it for you being a SUSE customer, bringing your SUSE assets to Azure and running them there. So that is basically what will happen during this time. Open source powers digital transformation. So I believe if you were in the 70s, if buying like a mainframe from IBM was possibly the way of digital transformation on the cutting edge you can do in 1971. That doesn't mean that would be the recipe for digital transformation in the year 2018. So everything changes. So if we fast forward a bit and look upon a concrete example, what is digital transformation? We can look upon the music industry that possibly been digitally transformed already twice the last 10 years. First time by the mobile devices and the iPods, and second time by the cloud services. And if you dig into the second digital transformation of the music industry, you can see the companies behind it were not like the established big companies at all. They were disruptors coming from like a great idea with no assets really. They had a great idea. They utilized the cloud, they utilized a lot of different kinds of software technologies and were able to bring a service to the market. And the established companies just looked upon what happened. The IT industry was not really there to like pick up on these companies either, and neither did the disruptors call them up. It is not that the people behind Spotify or the similar services were calling HP and asked for some servers. They were not calling to Microsoft and asked for operating systems either. And I'm afraid they didn't call SUSE for the same either. They started with a completely different approach. And if you look upon the approach they come pretty much from the the heritage of open source. They come from the communities, they come from the cloud, they come from the openness. And of course, this really changes how business is being built up and how the disruptors are building up their offerings. And how does this affect Microsoft, you can say? Of course, we cannot stay the same. So with the leadership of Satya Nadella, things has happened also within Microsoft. We really looked upon how we build our software. Are we just to build it first party only, or are we also to embrace open source components, open source technologies? Are there methods out there that we could benefit from instead of using it the old way? So like one example is Devops. Microsoft has close to 75,000 developers in our organization. And one of the things that Satya Nadella has implemented is actually Devops. So all our developers are using the Devops methodology. That is the way we bring forward our products to the market nowadays. So we have like an awful lot of developers, and to turn over the company to do this is taking some time. But it's also bringing us the benefits to bring out the new features to the market in a much faster pace. Other examples is like, it used to be first party only from Microsoft. So SQL Server, key product from Microsoft, lots of dollars, lots of revenues, of course, traditionally only available on Windows operating system. You possibly heard about the release in the later part of last year, that we brought SQL Server to Linux. Another example is .NET. .NET used to be like on the core and heart, and is still on the core and heart of Microsoft development. First party solution, no insight from any communities whatsoever. We decided the agenda ourselves, built it ourselves, sold it to our customers. .NET is now open source. We need to increase the pace. We need to get new influences into how we develop .NET in order for it to be like the platform to choose for the development to come. We can't just rely on our own resources doing that. We need to be influenced by the communities and gain from the communities and their experiences. So that is just a couple of examples of what we are doing and how we are embracing open source from Microsoft. So we're doing this, you can say, in four. If you look at our approach to open source into the cloud, we're having like four distinct pillars we are working on. So first of all, onto Azure, we must make sure that we enable the right technologies. We can't just have Azure as being like our cloud for our first-party solutions. So we must make sure that all the popular technologies that you would like to use are available. So this is like more like sanity than anything else. So if you like Java, you should like develop and continue to develop in Java, and you should be able to run it flawlessly, like with the best performance available on Azure. So if you prefer Docker, or Node.js, etc., compared to our first-party solutions, we should just embrace it. Your selection is a good selection. Make sure it runs flawlessly, it's supported, and it has great performance. And then we can look upon how we build our products. Are we just building our products based upon our own engineering, or can we also benefit from open source when we build our products? So we have examples, for instance, how we integrate Hadoop technologies in something called HD Insight, that's giving just one example, which is our big data analytics service that we run on Azure. Thirdly, we look upon, as I already spoke about, that technologies we had developed traditionally ourselves. How can we open that one up to the community and to gain experience from the community to further accelerate the development of those technologies? And so we release many things we have developed ourselves to the communities, as you are doing with SUSE, as well with your operating system, to have the communities to support us in further developing this, And we contribute. We make sure, that we participate in those projects that are key to our customers, that are key to our product strategy, in the same way as you are doing at SUSE and as other open source companies are doing. So we are like key contributors, for instance, in Linux actually today. We are in Kubernetes, in the Docker, etc., with Hadoop. And who would have thought that a few years ago, that we even would be spending time and resources on it. At the same time, we are also making sure we are part of the foundations, like the Eclipse Foundation, the Linux Foundation, the Cloud Foundry Foundations, and so on, as being active members and sponsors, so that we can contribute to the ecosystem, but also benefit from the experience that sits in these in these communities. Let's give you some open source fun facts, that possibly you know about, or if you don't know about, then it's going to be the first time. So actually, Microsoft has the most GitHub contributors, if you count the number of people. That was like amazing to me, also news to me. We're a member of Linux Foundation, Cloud Native, etc., etc. We have an executive vice president of Apache Software Foundation in the Azure Compute team, so that is like in the core of the development of Azure. The Windows team has a Docker contributor, and we are also the co-creator of Kubernetes, actually now a Microsoft employee. So we are really a part of the communities, you could say. This is a picture of an internal site from Microsoft where for our developers, it's called the Open Source Hub. So this is a screenshot. I'm sorry, but it got a little bit blurry here. But here we can say how many repros, how many contributors and forks we are having. So quite impressive numbers, I would say. And in most cases, much bigger than many of the companies that are in the open source world normally. So we have like over 9,000 contributors in different open source projects from our development community. Of course, Microsoft being a big company, we have more than 100,000 employees. So you need to put it into perspective. But still, it's like respectable numbers that we can show. If you look in Azure, it's kind of amazing also to see the way that the open source business is developing in Azure. Today, in average, we can say 40% of all Azure virtual machines are running Linux. But also the pace that Linux is growing at is twice the pace that Windows is growing. So by not so far, you will have like the majority of the VMs that we run on our customers' behalf in our cloud is actually going to be open source based. It's Linux based. If you look in Germany, they're already behind 50%. In China, we're above 70%. So that is like more like an overall average. We have something called Marketplace, that is where you can log in as an Azure customer and you can have like ready-made services that you can deploy. 60% of the solutions you can deploy from Marketplace are open source based. They run on Linux. And we have the strategic partnerships, I would say, with most of the open source major providers, being with, of course, SUSE, but also with many of the big data providers and the container providers and the other operating system providers within the open source domain. Let me give you some additional aspects on how we integrate open source in our products. So Kafka is a very hot topic today, very, very popular with developers, and also very popular within Microsoft. So Microsoft bought LinkedIn maybe a couple of years ago, and Bing is our search engine. And both LinkedIn and Bing are heavy users of Kafka. So that is like services. These are core services to us. It is not like something we put on the side. It doesn't really matter if it performs or not. So these are like super important. That's the core of our business. I already spoke about the Linux and number of VMs we have. We have some Microsoft technologies here related machine learning that we have like opened up to open source, and we are strong contributors into these technologies. We have the HD Insight and the Hadoop collaborations and the service we built upon that. We provide many open source databases as a service, as a PaaS service, like a managed service as a database on Azure, like Postgres, MySQL, MariaDB as a managed service on Azure. That is stuff you can buy from us. That has like a 100% open source heritage from the beginning. And of course, we can continue. Teams is like a product from us. We're using Chef, Jenkins, OpenJDK, Elastic, and so on and so forth. When we develop this, when we bring this service to the market. Just to give you some examples. And recently announced, so we just continue on the journey here of the fun facts here. So Cosmos DB, a very hot product right now, like a super horizontal scale database built for the cloud. We are joining the MariaDB Foundation, and so on. We have released core Microsoft technologies for GitHub. That makes it really the file system scale out to take the loads that are being used there. And we have a connected Visual Studio with container environments, so you can really work in an efficient way. If we finish off with this logo wall, these are just a small selection of different open source technologies that we have available into Azure. So it is not just infrastructure. Of course, the infrastructure is important as a service, but like, what Linux do you like? Of course, if I ask you, you will say SUSE Linux we like, but maybe when you leave this room, you run maybe sometimes something else as well, So we also have that's something as well on the side, So we are not trying to lock anyone into the specific Linux. And all jokes aside upon this, we try not to build our own distributions from Microsoft. Okay, we don't have our own branded, the Microsoft Linux distribution, because we believe that would be like a lock-in towards our cloud. So we don't build our own Java engine either, So we don't have like a Java engine. We could easily, we have the skills to build a Java engine. It is not that the skills that is lacking. But we believe, that there are plenty of options there on the market, and it should be up for you to choose. And if you would like to migrate off our cloud for some reasons, because you don't like it maybe you think it's too expensive, maybe it's something else that is wrong, then you should not be there. We believe it is a good thing, you should go here, but if it isn't good enough, you should be able to go out. And then you should be able to go out on the technology you had selected when you moved in. Not that we are forcing you to use something specific to run in our cloud. Application frameworks, if you don't like Visual Studio Team Services, there is also like Eclipse and other options on the market that you can embrace and you can use working on Azure. And for the application stack, you recognize many of these brands, coming to the management level. If you like Puppet or Chef, you should continue to use Puppet and Chef and you run it on Azure. It's not that you need to abandon those technologies when you bring it to the public cloud. And on the DevOps side, we support like most of the tool sets they also find available there. And as I said, this is just a fraction of the different logos that we could put on the screen here in these aspects. So why are we doing all this? At the end, it comes from the customer demand. So the customers, they need to digital transform. They want to be the disruptors. They want choice and flexibility, and they want to leverage their existing investments, And having the Microsoft salespeople showing up there saying, well, you should maybe consider that Java selection. Maybe you should go for .NET instead. Why are you using MariaDB? We have SQL Server. It's so much better, and so on and so forth. That is not a discussion that will bring that customer to any new position whatsoever. It will just kick out the Microsoft salespeople from the room, and we will not be able to be the trusted advisor for those people for the next 5-10 years to come. So we need to transform to be able to be the company that helps them into the new digital era. And hence, we need to be able to support them in this journey, advise them on what technologies to use, and also to provide that technology set and the partnerships that makes it possible. Really at the heart of what we're doing. So, what is Azure? So it's a public cloud. So what makes it different from any other public cloud you heard of in the market? So we believe that it's an open cloud for all. And we have like 4 pillars that we try to position it with. It's supposed to be productive, hybrid, intelligent, and trusted. And let me dig into what we mean with these 4 pillars. First of all, productive. We eat our own dog food regarding this, So most of the Microsoft products now are available as services, as you possibly have noticed, even if you're maybe coming from an open source heritage. So like Office is now Office 365. It's a cloud service. Dynamics, our ERP system, is actually Dynamics 365. It's a cloud service. SQL Server, guess what? I don't need to continue. All of these, we have converted our products to become cloud services. And we're doing this with our own first-party technologies. So we have been forced ourselves to develop our first-party solutions to be really cloud-native and be really productive, because we need to have the right tool sets for our 75,000 developers for our own products. Of course, we make that available to the market, to you also as our customers on the cloud. But as well, we embrace the third-party technologies that are available, as I showed you on the previous slide. So if you have different preferences than our first-party tool sets, that is also available to you. For you to pick and choose the tool sets that fits the way you would like to develop. And also the skill sets you have since before, and the preferences you have for the future. In Azure, we have a very, very strong PaaS platform. We have more than 100 PaaS services available for you to start using from day one. And just to give like an example, let's say you have today a customer care system that you run on premise, and maybe you're thinking about how can we further maintain this system for the last 10 years of its life cycle. Should we continue to do this on premise, or maybe we should move it to the cloud? Let's say we have like 3 challenges we would like to address. We really would like to need to increase availability in the customer interface, to being able to connect with us 24/7. And maybe we can do that with a bot interface, not just sending an email and responding daytime. Maybe we can have a bot there available 24/7 to answer some simple questions and have some direct interaction. Security is also something that is really important today, and there are more and more data intrusion attempts, so maybe adding some log analytics to look upon the attempts on intrusion towards our customer care system would be like of importance. And thirdly, customers are becoming more and more, I would say, vocal about their dissatisfaction of services provided. So in many cases, you're posting on Facebook and Twitter, it is crap that comes from this company. So what if we could analyze what's sitting on social media and connect with the trouble tickets we have in our own system, and maybe we can identify, what went wrong. Maybe we can turn those people that are writing bad things about us to be our ambassadors about our great service. So if those are the 3 challenges we need to address, they probably need to just do some simple things. We need to establish a bot platform on premise, and then we just need to also have a log analytics systems that we can select one from the market and buy one. And then, of course, we need something to do like NoSQL data analytics as well, so we can combine SQL data with non-SQL and social media information. And I would say for most companies, it will take them at least 1 year, maybe 2 years, to establish these 3 platforms on premise before you can start to build those services to the market. If you bring that application to Azure, within 3 months, I can guarantee you will be up and running on all these 3. If you have like a small group of developers, because you have all the PaaS services available on the platform. So then comes, how can you be the person, or how can you be in your company the ones that are going to be the leaders in customer service and can benefit from what's possible in doing digital. So that's one of the values about bringing the productivity and the speed to the project, and what we mean about having the PaaS platform being important. We have something called Logic Apps. We have more than 150 connectors to commercial applications sitting, waiting for you if you bring your application to Azure. So if you want to interface, let's say with Salesforce, for instance, there's like already a connector there waiting for you to get deployed. And coming into management, I have a separate slide on management. We have the Azure Portal. Of course, we're coming from the same heritage as SUSE A. We have had like enterprise customers for many years, sitting on premise. We know what's important, if you have thousands or tens of thousands of servers that you need to maintain, you need to have a proper management portal in order to make that happen. And we have the Azure Portal sitting there on our cloud that is built based upon our experiences of doing things on premise, but also bringing in the cloud aspect into what is needed. So it manages the security aspects, and possibly like Microsoft is one of those companies that are most vulnerable, or I would not say vulnerable, but one of the companies that are most attacked from the outside of intrusions. So we have lots of experience when it comes of data security within our company, and we have tried to build in that into our public cloud. If you want, we have many services regarding backup disaster recovery, how you can have like global presence of your data regardless and always available, and how you can also do this in a hybrid scenario where you have like maybe some of your service sitting on premise and some of them being on the cloud. Monitoring, of course, you need to, from a developer perspective, how is my application doing, what is doing good, what is bad, how is my performance? But also from the overall operations perspective, how is my production environment running? Configuration on mass scale, how can we like roll out the updates, how can we govern when they happen, how can we control it, and how can we automate it, and also to include like third-party open source components and use the first-party technologies that comes from Microsoft. With open APIs, and have policy enforcement, cost management. Of course, coming to the public cloud, it's easy to lose cost control, for instance. So that is also like an important aspect of what we can do with the Azure Portal to keep it productive and secure and well managed at the same time. Second important aspect is hybrid. So we have customers, for different reasons that maybe cannot move to the cloud. Or maybe there are some applications that needs to sit on premise also for the future. So for those that needs to be able to select from going on premise or to the cloud and go back and forward, you need to provide, we believe at least, we should provide for the efficiency, the same interfaces and the same services on the important aspects of building an application. So common identity management, a unified cloud platform, I will talk about Azure Stack in a moment, the data platform and security and management, have this really sit together as being like integral parts of the same, regardless of you being on-premise or being in the cloud. So specifically, we have something called Azure Stack, which is how you can build your Azure environment on-premise. So it's actually bringing the public cloud Azure capabilities to your private data center. And it could be from regulatory dimensions, for instance, that maybe the specific pieces of data are not fit to sit on the public cloud, so we need to keep them on our data center. Maybe we're uncertain about upcoming irregularities, so we would like to have the option to move things back. So we provide the same environment, so you can move your application back and forward from the public cloud to your private cloud with Azure Stack without any changes. Of course, Azure Stack that you put private doesn't have 100% of all the features. So you need to be a little bit selective what features you're using, but as long as you stay within the features available, it is something that really works. And Azure Stack is something that is delivered as a device from hardware vendors. So it's like Lenovo and HP and so on that brings the software and the hardware engineered to work together to the data center. So that is how the delivery happens. So it also takes away lots of the hassle that would be to set up a private cloud environment for the end customers. So if you bring your data to the cloud, that is of course good, because you get lots of capacity, you can start analyze it, and you have a security, and you can be well maintained, and you can be also sure, that you never lose the information because you have so many data centers you can replicate the data between. But you do basically the same. So we believe it's important to see what can you do to add additional intelligence. So we have developed lots of PaaS services that can work on the data you move to the cloud, like cognitive services, bot services, machine learning services, and this is on top of what you already have. The data asset becomes so much more valuable when you bring it to a platform where you can further dig up the value of the data that sits in the cloud. And it needs to be compliant and secure, trusted. This is just a logo wall. I think we have more than 65 different ISO certifications and industry certificates and global certificates and so on and so forth. So I will not dig into this, because it will take, and I don't know all the aspects of it either. So you can take a picture and have global reach. We have 42 data centers and it's counting. If you have a competitor here, they will say they have more. When I come back, I will say we have more. So we have lots of data centers, depending on how you count it. And we are constantly building this up to be more. So global reach is something you can trust us. So if you also need to go to Australia, China, US, South America, we have a data center there where your customers are. So let's see, I'm at least 5-7 minutes behind in my calendar, so I need to speed up a little bit. Today, 1 out of 2 VMs, more or less, are on Linux. But if you take it back to year 2006, we were not there with regards of open source or Linux or whatsoever. And I will say the partnership and the relationship with SUSE has been fundamental in the journey from where we started 2006 to here. Because I think it's one of the first partnerships that really Microsoft had with the open source communities. And it has been a long-standing relationship that has developed ever since the last close to 15 years. So here you can see some of the stages, what has happened. And just to take the last two here. So we released SQL Server on SLES last year, and also .NET Core was released on SLES last year, to give some of the examples of how we're further developing our products, and we are closing our collaboration between the companies. We have, I would say, from the customer perspective and the solution perspective, 3 core domains that we are collaborating on. It is on SAP. That's an important aspect. I will come to that in the next slide. Different open source solutions that you would like to run on Azure. That could be Java, Node.js, MariaDB powered, and whatever applications that you're running. And then we have the Microsoft solutions that run on Linux. Mainly, that would be like SQL Server from our perspective. So, let me spend a couple of minutes on this slide, regardless of me being a little bit late here. This is a really important area for us. SUSE Linux Enterprise Service on Azure. It is one of the most used Linux distributions in the market by far. 80% of the large enterprises are using SLES today. We see many of our customers looking upon how they are to transform for using their own data center, maybe using an outsourcer, and how to benefit from the public cloud for whatever applications. And the support we have together with SUSE on different configurations on the operating system, fully supported from both parties, is like a super important cornerstone in having the discussions with the customers and how to embrace the public cloud. Second area, more like on a specific solution domain, is high-performance compute. Today it looks like 50% at least of the high-performance compute machines in the world are running SUSE Linux. Could be a little bit more. And lots of the ecosystem sitting on top of the operating system is very Linux friendly, is very SUSE friendly. That is like the simulation applications and so on that are being built on the market. So this is a very, very attractive solution domain for the public cloud because it's something that really scales very well. Massive compute, having like 10,000 CPUs to work on a case for 2 hours and then offload it, and with the result is something that value that possibly was not unthinkable of doing on premise. So like the possibilities bringing the HPC to the cloud is like super attractive to our customers, and it's very, very interesting in the collaboration between the companies. The third area, SAP, I think on HANA, SUSE claims to have 95% market share. I hope it is right, so that is more. 96, okay. So then it's just more 5% to gain, then you have the full control. Anyway, so, and we all know that within SAP, between now and year 2025, all the SAP customers need to decide upon how they are to do with their SAP installations, since the R3 support is going out, and it's going to be on HANA, and HANA only supported on Linux, and at the same time you say, hey, why are we running this on premise? We have education systems, we have high availability problems, we need to have global reach. There are many things that points towards, I would say, the public cloud as being like an attractive option. And also there's need for like massive amounts of memory and compute in order to run HANA. That is also something that's pretty much available when you have a public cloud. So that's a domain that we work very close with SUSE on. And the SUSE Manager is one way of maintaining and controlling not just your SUSE environments, but also like other environments that you can run both on premise and on Azure. So that's like a fourth aspect. And I can see the 70% that should have been like pushed towards the left there. So that is my mistake when building this slide. So this is a screenshot from the marketplace, Azure Marketplace. This is where you actually can buy. Just buy and try, and buying it going, directly from Microsoft with your credit card or by invoice. So available here we have at least these 4 SUSE distributions you can buy on demand, ready available, like SAP SUSE Manager, SUSE Enterprise Server for HPC, and just the general SUSE server. So then.
So the Windows subsystem for Linux, SLES is available in.
It could maybe be that my search of SUSE was not good enough. You see, my search Maybe I should have written in something. You can see here on the top right-hand corner. Maybe SUSE was not good enough when I made the screen dump. Yeah. If I would have written less, maybe I got a different, the hit, So it could be more, So buying options, if buying from Microsoft, you can actually buy those products from your Microsoft Enterprise Agreement, if you prefer. You can also buy them on the cloud service provider agreements. You can, on Marketplace, you can take it as pay-as-you-go, and of course, you can bring your own subscription from SUSE and run it onto Azure. So that is like 4 different buying options when bringing your SUSE assets to Azure, and how we can do that. So support finally. So if you buy SUSE from us, of course we will take the trouble ticket as a first hand, and we make a first attempt to resolve the issues. And on Azure infrastructure, if we can't resolve it, or if it points towards it actually something that sits within the SLES itself, not like it sits in the Azure environment that is causing the problem, we have a defined process with SUSE, so we make a warm handoff to the SUSE support team that takes the case over and brings it to a conclusion. So that is the way we have set up this between the companies, and it has proven to work pretty well. So at the end, final slide. So why should you trust SUSE and Microsoft together? First of all, we've been in partners more than 10 years together. Since 2006 we started this partnership. We really trust each other, and we have built up like a good working relationship and very strong support structures to support our customers. The products are adopted to work and fit together, specifically within the domains of HPC, Linux workloads, open source platforms, and HPC. We are well equipped to have the right offering towards the market and for you. And we have the SUSE manager also sits on top of Microsoft Azure for you to maintain in an efficient way your SUSE assets also when moving it to Azure. So 8 minutes behind of time. Sorry for that. The partnership gets stronger every day. I'm so happy that I was able to come, that I was invited, and thank you so much for having me.